Before we begin, a quick and important disclaimer. The information provided in this video is for educational and informational purposes only, and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not a doctor, therapist, or medical professional. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have seen in this presentation. If you are in a crisis or may have an emergency, please call 911 or your local emergency number immediately. You finally do it. After weeks, months, maybe even years of thinking about it, you decide today is the day. You're going to find a therapist. Your hands are a little shaky as you type therapists near me into Google. A long list pops up. It feels overwhelming, but you take a deep breath and click on a website that looks professional. You find the phone number. You dial. It rings and goes to a voicemail that sounds like it was recorded in a wind tunnel 10 years ago. You leave a message. Hi. I'm looking to see if you're accepting new patients. You hang up, and you wait. A day goes by. 2 days. A week. Nothing. You try another number. This time a real person answers. I'm sorry, she says. We're not accepting new patients right now. The wait list is about 6 months long. 6 months? You feel a pit in your stomach. You try a third number, a fourth. Voicemails. Waitlists. We don't take your insurance. It starts to feel less like a search for help and more like a punishment. You start to wonder, is it me? Am I doing this wrong? Is it even possible to get mental health care in this country? If that story sounds even remotely familiar, you are not alone. And it is not your fault. What you've just experienced is the front door to the American mental health system. It's a system that feels less like a system and more like a labyrinth, designed by someone who wants you to get lost. 1 in 5 American adults, that's over 57 million people, experiences a mental illness in a given year. Yet, less than half of them receive any treatment. And it's not for a lack of trying. It's because navigating this maze of insurance jargon, out-of-network providers, impossible waitlists, and staggering costs is a full-time job that nobody ever teaches you how to do. This video series is going to change that. This is your map. This is your step-by-step playbook for navigating the U.S. system for mental health support. We are going to demystify the entire process, from the first phone call to your first appointment and beyond. Over the next 10 parts, we will give you the tools, the scripts, the questions, and the strategies you need to find the right help for the right price right now. We're going to teach you how to decode your insurance plan to figure out what's actually covered. We'll show you how to find affordable or even free therapy even if you have no insurance at all. We will break down the different types of therapy, CBT, DBT, psychodynamics, so you know what you're looking for. We'll explain the difference between a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a counselor, and a social worker, so you can find the professional that fits your specific needs. We are going to arm you with the exact questions to ask a potential therapist to make sure they're a good fit before you ever spend a dime. And we will cover what to do in a crisis, how to know your rights as a patient, and how to advocate for yourself or a loved one when the system pushes back. By the end of this series, you won't just understand the system. You'll know how to make it work for you. So, where do we begin this journey? We begin with the single most important mindset shift you need to make. It's the foundation upon which everything else is built. You must become your own case manager, your own advocate. This is the hardest pill to swallow, especially when you're already feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or depressed. It's the cruel irony of the system. The time you most need someone to guide you is the exact time you're required to guide yourself. No one is going to swoop in with a perfect referral and a guaranteed appointment. The insurance company is not your friend. The hospital administrator is not your personal guide. You have to take control. So what does being your own advocate actually look like in practice? It comes down to 3 things. Get organized, get persistent, and get informed. Let's start with get organized. This isn't about creating a color-coded 20-tab binder, unless you're into that. It's about creating a central place for your search. This could be a simple notebook, a Google Doc, or a note on your phone. Every time you call a provider, you are going to log it. Write down the date, the name of the practice, the number you called, who you spoke to, and what they said. Spoke to Brenda, not accepting new patients. Left voicemail. Waitlist is 4 months, we'll call back if something opens up. Takes my insurance, but Dr. Smith is out of network. Why do we do this? Because after the 10th phone call, your brain will turn to mush. You won't remember who you called or what they said. This log becomes your single source of truth. It prevents you from calling the same place twice. It also creates a record. If you need to fight an insurance claim later, or prove to a doctor that you've been trying to get care, you have a detailed log of your efforts. It turns a chaotic, emotional process into a manageable, data-driven project. Second, get persistent. This is where most people give up. The system is designed to wear you down. The silence, the rejection, the voicemails. It's a war of attrition. You have to treat no not as a final answer, but as an obstacle to navigate. If you leave a voicemail and don't hear back in 48 hours, call again. If they say the waitlist is 6 months, ask if they have a cancellation list you can be put on. Ask if they can provide referrals to other clinicians in the area who might have openings. Be polite but be firm. Remember, you are not bothering them. You are a potential customer seeking a vital service. A simple phrase can be incredibly powerful. I understand you're busy, but getting this care is extremely important for me. Is there anything at all you can suggest? Persistence isn't about being annoying. It's about signaling that you are serious and you are not going away. Sometimes that's what it takes to get a call back when an appointment slot suddenly opens up. Finally, and most importantly, get informed. You are about to enter a world with its own language. Deductibles, copays, coinsurance, pre-authorizations, in-network, out-of-network. These aren't just words. They are gatekeepers that determine what care you can get and how much you will pay for it. You don't need to become an expert, but you do need to learn the basics. That's what this entire series is for. We are going to arm you with that knowledge. Because when you call a provider's office and they ask, "What's your deductible for outpatient mental health services?" you need to have an answer. When an insurance company denies a claim, you need to know how to start the appeals process. Knowledge is power in this system. It's the difference between being a victim of the system and being a navigator of it. Get organized, get persistent, get informed. This is your new mantra. It's the mindset that will carry you through the frustration and the bureaucracy. It transforms you from a passive patient waiting for help to an active advocate demanding it. This is square one. Now, with this framework in place, we can get tactical. We need to start breaking down the first major barrier that stands between you and a therapist's office. It's a small piece of plastic in your wallet that holds an immense amount of power over your mental health journey. Your insurance card. It's covered in codes, numbers, and jargon that feel intentionally confusing. But hidden on that card are the keys to unlocking your coverage. And in the next part, we are going to grab a magnifying glass and decode it, line by line. We'll uncover exactly what those terms mean, where to find the secret phone number for mental health benefits, and how to use that little card to build a list of therapists that you can actually afford. Okay, let's pull out that little piece of plastic. It might feel flimsy, but this is your key. Your Excalibur. Your ticket into the system. Let's look at the front first. You'll see your name, of course, but the first two codes you need to lock onto are your member ID and your group number. The member ID is you. It's your social security number for the insurance world. Every call you make, every form you fill out will ask for this number. Guard it. The group number usually identifies your employer or the specific plan you're a part of. Less important for you day to day, but good to know. Now look for a set of letters. You'll probably see HMO, PPO, EPO, or POS. This isn't just alphabet soup. It's the fundamental rulebook for how you can use your insurance. Understanding this one thing can save you thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours of frustration. Let's break it down. If you have an HMO, a health maintenance organization, think of it as a gated community. It's often more affordable, but it has strict rules. To see any specialist, including a therapist, you almost always need a referral from your primary care physician, your PCP. They are the gatekeeper, and you must stay inside their network of doctors. If you see a therapist outside that approved list, it's like leaving the gated community. The security guard, your insurance, won't help you. You're on your own, paying 100% of the cost. If you have a PPO, a preferred provider organization, you've got more freedom. Think of it like a VIP membership at a citywide restaurant group. You have a list of preferred restaurants, your in-network providers, where you get a huge discount. But you have the freedom to dine anywhere else you want. If you go to a restaurant that's not on the list, an out-of-network therapist, your VIP card still works, but the discount is much smaller. You'll pay more, but you have the choice. Crucially, with a PPO, you don't need a gatekeeper. You don't need a referral to see a specialist. You can call a therapist directly. Then there are the hybrids. An EPO, or exclusive provider organization, is like a PPO in that you don't need a referral. You can go straight to a specialist, but it's like an HMO in one critical way. There is no coverage for going out of network. You have a list of providers and that's it. It's a bigger playground than an HMO, but there's still a hard fence around it. Finally, a POS or point of service plan tries to be the best of both worlds. It acts like an HMO where you choose a primary care doctor and need referrals for in-network care. But it also gives you the PPO-like option to go out of network if you're willing to pay more. So find those letters on your card. HMO, PPO, EPO. That's your first clue. It tells you whether you need to talk to your family doctor first, and whether you have the option to see a therapist who isn't on their official list. Now flip the card over. This is the back office. This is where the real work gets done. You'll see a lot of fine print and a few phone numbers. Ignore the number that says Member Services for a second. Scan carefully. Look for a separate number specifically for mental health, behavioral health, or substance abuse. Bingo! That is the secret entrance. Many insurance companies outsource their mental health benefits to a completely different company. Calling the main number is like calling the front desk of a massive corporation to ask about the light bulb in one specific office. You'll get transferred, put on hold, and lost in the system. But this behavioral health number? It's a direct line to the people who have the answers you actually need. Okay, we've found the door and the secret key. But before we use it, we have to understand the price of admission. This is where most people get overwhelmed and give up. It's the financial jargon. Deductible, copay, coinsurance, and out-of-pocket maximum. I know it sounds terrible, but we're going to make it simple. Imagine your health costs for the year are like a giant pitcher of water you have to fill up. First, there's your deductible. The deductible is the amount of money you have to pay entirely by yourself before your insurance company pays a single penny. Think of it as the first part of the pitcher you have to fill using your own bucket. If your deductible is $2,000, you will pay for every doctor's visit, every prescription, every therapy session, 100% out of your own pocket until the total you've paid reaches $2,000. It's a painful but crucial first step. Once you've filled that deductible portion of the pitcher, you hit the next level of cost sharing. This is where you'll encounter either a copay or coinsurance. A copay is the easy one. It's a flat fee. After your deductible is met, your plan might say, a visit to a specialist costs a $40 copay. That means every time you see your therapist, you hand them $40 and that's it. The insurance company pays the rest of what the therapist charges, whether it's $100 or $200. It's predictable and simple. Coinsurance is a little trickier because it's a percentage. Your plan might say, we cover 80% of costs after your deductible. This means you are responsible for the other 20%. So if a therapy session costs $150, your insurance pays $120, and you pay $30. The amount you pay changes depending on the cost of the service. It's less predictable than a copay, so you have to pay closer attention. So you're paying your copays or your coinsurance for every visit. But what happens if you need a lot of care? What if you're seeing a therapist weekly and also have a major surgery? Those costs could spiral into infinity, right? Wrong. And this is the single most important number to understand, the out-of-pocket maximum. This is the lid on the pitcher. It is the absolute final total amount of money you will ever have to pay for your covered medical care in a year. Your deductible payments, your copayments, your coinsurance payments, every dollar you spend from your own pocket, all of it goes towards filling that pitcher up to the out-of-pocket maximum line. Let's say your out-of-pocket max is $8,000. Once you have spent that much in a year, your insurance company steps in and pays 100% of all covered costs for the rest of the year. It is a financial fire extinguisher. It's the safety net designed to prevent medical bills from bankrupting you. Let's walk through a real-world example. Let's say you have a PPO plan. Your deductible is $1,000. After that, you have a $50 copay for therapy. Your out-of-pocket maximum is $6,000. You find an in-network therapist who charges $175 per session. For your first session, you pay the full $175. Your insurance pays nothing. You've now paid $175 towards your $1,000 deductible. You go for 5 more sessions. Each time you pay the full $175. After 6 sessions total, you have paid $1,050. You have now officially met your deductible. Congratulations! Now, for your 7th session, things change. You don't pay $175 anymore. You just pay your flat $50 copay. Your insurance company pays the remaining $125. And for every single session after that for the rest of the year, you only pay $50. Every dollar you've spent, the first $1,050 to meet your deductible, and every $50 copay after that, is being added up and counted towards your $6,000 out-of-pocket maximum. This is your ultimate protection. Now you know. You can look at that card not with confusion but with clarity. You know your plan type, which tells you the rules of the game. You know where to find the direct phone number for mental health. And you understand the 4 key terms that determine what this is all actually going to cost. You are no longer navigating blind. You have a map and you can read the language. And with that map, we are ready to take the next and most crucial step. We're going to use that behavioral health phone number to make the call that will unlock everything. I'm going to give you the exact script, the precise words to say and the critical questions to ask to get your insurance company to do the work for you and deliver a list of affordable, available in-network therapists right to your inbox. The hunt is about to begin. All right, let's arm you for that first critical phone call. I know what you're thinking. Calling your insurance company feels like willingly walking into a labyrinth designed by a committee that hates joy. The hold music is a war crime, and the automated menus are a test of sanity. So why are we doing this? Why not just use their website? Because the online provider directory for most insurance companies is a ghost town. It's a digital graveyard of good intentions, filled with therapists who moved, retired, changed their name, or stopped taking your insurance 3 years ago. It's a list of maybes that will lead to a dozen dead-end phone calls and a mountain of frustration. You don't have time for that. Making this phone call is the single most powerful hack in this entire process. It's about shifting the burden of labor. Instead of you spending hours cold calling ghosts from an outdated list, you are going to make them, the company you pay every single month, do the work for you. You are going to leverage their own system to get what you are entitled to, access to care. So before we dial, let's do a pre-mission briefing. You'll need 3 things. First, your insurance card. Have it in your hand. Second, a pen and a piece of paper, or a blank document open on your computer. Third, about 15 to 20 minutes in a quiet place where you can focus. That's it. This is your toolkit. When you call the number on the back of your card, usually it says Member Services or Behavioral Health, you will likely navigate an automated system. Just keep saying representative or mental health benefits until you get a human being on the line. Once you do, the clock starts. The first thing you ask before anything else is this. Hi, can I please get a reference number for this call? This is non-negotiable. The reference number is your proof. It's your leverage. It turns a forgettable conversation into an official, documented interaction. It tells the person on the other end that you are serious and you mean business. Write that number down at the top of your page. Now the script begins. You're going to be calm, polite, but firm. Here is what you say word for word. Hi, my name is your name. I am looking for a list of in-network mental health providers. Specifically, I'm looking for an individual therapist for outpatient psychotherapy. Let's pause there. Outpatient psychotherapy is the clinical term for standard talk therapy. Using the right language gets you to the right place faster. If you're looking for something more specific, you can add it here. For example, a therapist who specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy, or who has experience with anxiety and panic disorders, or a provider who is a woman of color. Be as specific as you want. The representative will then start looking. This is where most people get a generic list and the call ends. But we are not most people. We are going to dig deeper with a series of critical questions. As they give you names, you need to ask these for each one. Question 1. Can you confirm they are currently accepting new patients? This is the million-dollar question. It filters out 90% of the useless names on their list. If the rep says, I don't have that information, you reply politely, I understand. Could you please check? It's very important for me to get an accurate list of available providers. Question 2. Can you tell me what my financial responsibility will be for these visits? Specifically, what is my copay or my coinsurance for a standard outpatient mental health appointment? Get the exact dollar amount. No estimates. Write it down next to the provider's name. Question 3. Have I met my deductible for this year? And if not, how much is remaining? Your deductible is the amount you have to pay out of pocket before your insurance starts to cover its share. If you have a $2,000 deductible you haven't touched, that $50 copay is irrelevant. Your first sessions will cost the full contracted rate, which could be $150 or $200 a pop. You need to know this number. Question 4. Is pre-authorization or a referral required for me to see these providers? Sometimes you need a green light from your insurance company before you can even make an appointment. Finding this out now saves you from a massive surprise bill down the road. Now you've gathered your intelligence. You've asked the right questions. You might have a few promising names. This is the moment where we execute the power move. This is the part that will change the game for you. You are going to say the following slowly and clearly. Thank you, this is very helpful. The last time I used the online directory, much of the information was out of date, which resulted in a lot of wasted time. To make sure I can access my benefits, could you do me a favor? Could you please call the top 3 most promising providers on this list to personally confirm that they are in-network and are currently accepting new patients? Once you have that confirmation, could you please email me their name, phone number, and address, along with the reference number for our call today? Let that sink in. You are asking them, the insurance representative, to make the calls. They might pause. They might be surprised. They might even say, "We don't normally do that." If they push back, you stay calm and you use this exact response. I understand that it might not be standard procedure, but accessing my mental health benefits is a critical need for me, and the provided resources have so far been a barrier to care. As a paying member, I need assistance from my insurance company to locate an available, in-network provider. Is there a clinical care manager or a member advocate you could transfer me to who could help facilitate this? That is the checkmate phrase. Barrier to care. Member advocate. These are internal trigger words that escalate your request. Under the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act, they are legally required to provide access to mental health care that is comparable to physical health care. Creating a system so convoluted that you can't find a doctor is a potential violation of that. They know this. Asking for a member advocate shows them that you know this. 9 times out of 10, they will either do it themselves or transfer you to someone who will. And just like that, the hunt is no longer your burden alone. You've turned your insurance company from a gatekeeper into your personal administrative assistant. You will get an email. A clean, simple email, with a short list of therapists who are confirmed to be in-network and have a literal open door waiting for you. This single 20-minute phone call can save you 10 to 15 hours of the most soul-crushing, demoralizing phone tag you will ever play. It is the single most effective strategy for cutting through the noise and getting to the people who can actually help you. So now you have the list. The mission was a success. You have the names, the numbers, and the cost. You're standing at the edge of the diving board, ready to jump. But what do you say when you make that first call to a therapist's office? What questions should you ask them to see if they're the right fit? Because finding someone who takes your insurance is only half the battle. The other half is finding someone you can actually connect with. And that's exactly what we're going to break down next. We're moving from the logistics of insurance to the art of the first impression. I'm going to give you a new script, not for the insurance company, but for your potential therapist, to ensure that your very first conversation is one that sets you up for success and helps you find not just any therapist, but the right therapist for you. Okay, let's break this down. That first phone call or email to a potential therapist can feel like the highest stakes emotional cold call of your life. It's this bizarre mix of a job interview, a first date, and a confession, all rolled into one terrifying 15-minute consultation. Your heart is pounding, you're rehearsing what to say, and you're terrified you're either going to say too much and sound crazy, or say too little and not be taken seriously. The pressure is immense. So, the first thing we need to do is completely reframe this interaction. You are not a patient begging for a cure. You are not a broken person asking to be fixed. You are the CEO of your own well-being, and you are conducting an interview. This person, this potential therapist, is applying for one of the most important jobs in your life. A trusted partner in your mental health journey. They need to prove they are qualified for the role. You are the one with the power here. You are vetting them. Once you internalize that mindset shift, the entire dynamic changes. You go from feeling vulnerable and exposed to feeling empowered and in control. This interview has 3 core components, and we're going to tackle them in order, from least scary to most personal, so you can build momentum and confidence during the call. Think of it as a script with 3 acts: the logistics, the vibe check, and the snapshot. Act 1, the logistics. This is the easy part. It's all facts and figures, black and white. You're just gathering data. This is where you confirm the practical stuff you probably saw on their website but need to hear directly from them. Lead with these questions to get the ball rolling. Start with the big one. Hi, I found your information on Psychology Today, your insurance directory, a friend's recommendation. and I'm interested in potentially starting therapy. First, I just want to confirm, are you currently accepting new clients? If the answer is no, great. Your job is done. Okay, thank you for your time. And you move on. No rejection, just a fact. If the answer is yes, you move to the money question. Great. I have your insurance provider insurance. Can you confirm that you are in network with them? Don't just assume. Get a direct confirmation. If they are, fantastic. If they're out of network, your follow-up is, okay. Do you provide a super bill that I can submit to my insurance for potential reimbursement? This shows you know how the system works. Then ask the most critical question. What is your self-pay rate per session? Even if you have insurance, you need to know this number. It tells you what you'd be on the hook for if your insurance suddenly changes or denies a claim. Also ask, do you offer a sliding scale? A sliding scale means they adjust their fee based on a client's income. It's a huge green flag that a therapist is focused on accessibility of care. Finally, you ask about availability. What are your general hours? Are you offering in-person sessions, virtual sessions, or a hybrid of both? This is you, the CEO, making sure their work schedule aligns with your company's needs. See, you've already had a significant conversation, gotten crucial information, and you haven't had to reveal anything deeply personal yet. Now we move to Act 2, the vibe check. This is where you transition from logistics to their professional style. You're trying to figure out if their approach to therapy resonates with you. You are not expected to be an expert in therapeutic modalities, so don't feel like you need to know the difference between CBT, DBT, and psychodynamic therapy. Instead, use open-ended questions that let them do the talking. A great starting point is, can you tell me a little bit about your therapeutic approach? What is a typical session with you like? Listen to how they describe their work. Do they use a lot of jargon you don't understand? Or do they explain things in a clear, accessible way? Do they sound collaborative and flexible, or rigid and dogmatic? A good therapist should be able to explain their methods in a way that a non-therapist can understand. Next, get specific to you but without getting into the weeds. Ask about their experience. I'm looking for support with anxiety and life transitions. What's your experience working with clients who have similar concerns? This question does two things. It confirms they have the right expertise, and it shows you how they talk about their clients' issues. Do they sound compassionate and knowledgeable? Or do they sound clinical and detached? Another powerful question is, how do you view the therapist-client relationship? This is huge. Are they the expert who dictates your treatment? Or are they a collaborator, a guide, a partner? Look for words like collaboration, partnership, safe space, non-judgmental. This is the person you might be sharing your deepest fears with. You need to know that they see you as an equal in this process. Okay, deep breath. You've handled the logistics, you've checked the vibe. Now for the final and most vulnerable part. Act 3, the snapshot. This is where you give them a very brief, very high-level summary of what's bringing you to therapy. The goal here is not to pour your heart out. It's to give them just enough context to know if they can help you. We're talking 2 or 3 sentences, max. Here's a simple template you can use. I've been struggling with a general feeling or symptom for about a general time frame, and it's starting to affect an area of your life like work, relationships, or sleep. I'm hoping to find some tools, strategies, or clarity to help me manage it better. Let's plug in some examples. I've been struggling with a lot of overwhelming anxiety for the past 6 months, and it's starting to affect my ability to focus at work. I'm hoping to find some strategies to help me manage it better. Or, I've been feeling really stuck and unmotivated since a recent breakup, and it's affecting my relationships with friends. I'm hoping to find some clarity on how to move forward. See how that works. It's concise, it's clear, and it gives them the information they need without you having to share a traumatic story with a stranger over the phone. You are setting a boundary from the very first interaction. You are in control of how much you share. After you give your snapshot, pause. Let them respond. And this is where you watch for the green flags and red flags. A green flag is a therapist who listens actively. They might say something like, "That sounds really difficult. Thank you for sharing that with me. Based on what you've said, I do think my approach could be helpful." They validate your experience and connect it to their expertise. A red flag is a therapist who immediately jumps into problem solving, tells you what you should do, or makes a grand promise like, "Oh yeah, we can fix that in a few sessions." Therapy is a process, not a quick fix. Another red flag is dismissiveness. If they cut you off, rush you, or make you feel like your problem isn't a big deal, hang up. that is not the person for you. You are looking for warmth, curiosity, and respect. At the end of the call, you don't have to make a decision on the spot. This is critical. You can and should say, "Thank you so much for your time and for answering my questions. I'm speaking with a few therapists to find the right fit. I'll be in touch if I'd like to schedule an initial appointment." That's it. It's a polite, professional, and powerful way to end the conversation. It reminds them, and more importantly, it reminds you that you are in charge. You are interviewing candidates. And here's the most liberating part. You don't ever have to call them back. If the vibe was off, if you felt uncomfortable, if their voice just annoyed you, it doesn't matter the reason. You are not obligated to give an explanation. Finding the right therapist is an act of self-care. And that includes giving yourself permission to walk away from a bad fit. No questions asked. This script isn't just about what to say. It's about reclaiming your power in a system that can often make you feel powerless. And perhaps the single biggest area where that power feels stripped away is when the bill arrives. It's the moment the abstract pursuit of well-being collides with the cold, hard reality of the American healthcare system. It's a system built on a foundation of confusing terms, hidden rules, and financial trapdoors designed to make you feel overwhelmed. But knowledge is power. And today, we are going to arm you with the knowledge to turn that confusion into confidence. This isn't just about paying for therapy. It's about mastering the financial game so it no longer stands as a barrier between you and the help you deserve. Let's start with the big one, insurance. For many, this is the only viable path. But walking this path is like navigating a labyrinth in the dark. The first choice you face is between an in-network and an out-of-network provider. Think of it like this. In-network therapists have a pre-negotiated contract with your insurance company. They're on the approved list. The benefit here is simplicity. You find a provider on your insurance company's website, you show up, and you pay a fixed fee called a copay for each session. Maybe $20, $30, or $50. The insurance company pays the rest directly to the therapist. It sounds great, right? But the trade-off is often choice and availability. The approved list can be shockingly small, outdated, or filled with therapists who have 6-month waiting lists. You're limited to who they've decided to partner with. Then there's the out-of-network path. This is where you have the freedom to choose almost any therapist you want, even if they don't have a contract with your insurance. This opens up a world of options, specialists, and providers who might be a much better fit for you. But with great freedom comes great responsibility and paperwork. In this scenario, you pay the therapist their full fee upfront out of your own pocket. The therapist then gives you a special, detailed receipt called a superbill. This is your golden ticket. It's a standardized form that contains all the information your insurance company needs. The therapist's license number, the dates you met, a diagnosis code, and a special 5-digit number called a CPT code, which tells the insurance company what kind of service you received, like a 60-minute therapy session. You then submit this superbill to your insurance company, and they will reimburse you for a portion of what you paid. How much they reimburse you depends on a few key terms that insurance companies use to intentionally confuse you. Let's break them down. First, the deductible. This is the most important number to know. Your deductible is the amount of money you have to pay out of pocket for healthcare in a given year before your insurance benefits even kick in. Think of it as a force field around your insurance company. If you have a $2,000 deductible for mental health, you have to spend $2,000 of your own money on therapy sessions first. Only after you've paid that full amount will the force field drop, and your insurance will start helping you pay. Once you've met that deductible, you'll either have a copay or coinsurance. We already mentioned a copay. That's the simple fixed fee for in-network providers. Coinsurance, however, is more common for out-of-network benefits. Instead of a flat fee, it's a percentage. Your plan might say you have 20% coinsurance. This means that after your deductible is met, your insurance will pay 80% of the cost, and you are still responsible for the remaining 20%. So, you find an out-of-network therapist you love, you pay them, you get your super bill, you submit it, and you get a check back in the mail. Seems manageable, but there's one more hidden trap, and it's called the allowable amount. This is, without a doubt, one of the most frustrating parts of the system. You might think that if your therapist charges $200 per session, and your insurance covers 80%, you'll get $160 back. That would be logical. But insurance companies don't operate on logic. They operate on contracts. The allowable amount, sometimes called the usual and customary rate, is the maximum price your insurance company thinks a therapy session should cost in your geographic area. And spoiler alert, it's almost always lower than what therapists actually charge. So your therapist might charge $200, but your insurance company decides the allowable amount is only $120. That means they will only reimburse you 80% of that $120, which is $96. Not the $160 you were expecting. You are responsible for the rest. This single, often hidden number is the source of so much financial shock and stress, and it's why calling your insurance company beforehand is not optional. It is an act of financial self-defense. When you call that number on the back of your insurance card, you need to be prepared. You're not just calling to ask if you have coverage. You're conducting an investigation. Grab a pen and paper, get the name of the person you're speaking to, and ask for a reference number for the call. Then ask these specific questions. What is my annual deductible for outpatient, in-network mental health services? And then, what is my annual deductible for outpatient, out-of-network mental health services? They are often different. After my deductible is met, what is my copay or coinsurance for in-network sessions? For out-of-network, what percentage of the cost do you reimburse? And here is the killer question. What is the allowable amount, or usual and customary rate, for the CPT code 90837 in my zip code? That code, 9-0-8-3-7, is the standard code for a 53 to 60-minute individual therapy session. They may try to dodge this question, but be persistent. Knowing this number is the key to truly understanding your out-of-pocket cost. Finally, ask, how do I submit a super bill for reimbursement? Is there an online portal or a mailing address? Now, after hearing all of that, you might be thinking, this is insane. I'm just going to pay for it myself. And for some people, that is absolutely the right call. Paying completely out of pocket without involving insurance at all is a valid and increasingly popular choice. The primary benefit is privacy. When you use insurance, your therapist is required to give you a clinical diagnosis, like major depressive disorder or generalized anxiety disorder, which becomes a part of your permanent health record. For some people, particularly those in sensitive jobs or who simply value their privacy, avoiding this is a major priority. Paying out of pocket also gives you and your therapist total freedom. Insurance companies can dictate how many sessions you're allowed or what type of therapy is covered. Without their involvement, you are in complete control. But how do you make that affordable? The sticker price of therapy can feel impossible. The key is knowing that many therapists don't just have one set price. The first and most powerful tool is the sliding scale. Many private practice therapists reserve a certain number of spots in their caseload for clients who can't afford their full fee. They will slide their fee down based on your income and financial situation. But you have to ask. On that initial consultation call, it is perfectly acceptable and very common to say, I'm incredibly interested in working with you, but I'm not sure I can afford your full fee. Do you offer a sliding scale or a reduced rate? The worst they can say is no. But many will say yes, or refer you to a trusted colleague who can. Another fantastic, often overlooked option is to seek therapy at a university or a training institute. These are places where graduate students in psychology, social work, or counseling are getting their clinical training. They provide therapy to the public at a dramatically reduced cost, sometimes as low as $10 or $20 a session. And don't think you're getting lesser care. Every session is being meticulously supervised by a seasoned, licensed professional. You're effectively getting two expert minds working on your case for the price of a movie ticket. Finally, don't forget about community mental health centers and nonprofits. These organizations are often funded by the government or charitable donations with the specific mission of providing affordable care. A simple search for community mental health services near me can open up a world of low-cost options you never knew existed. Navigating the cost of therapy is a journey in itself. It requires you to be your own advocate, to ask direct questions, and to refuse to be intimidated by a system designed to be confusing. Whether you're decoding your insurance plan or negotiating a sliding scale, remember what this is about. It's not just about a transaction. It's about you making a profound investment in yourself. You're affirming that your mental health is not a luxury, but a necessity. By taking control of the financial piece, you're not just saving money, you're clearing the final hurdle. So you can walk into that first session with your therapist, free from financial anxiety, ready to begin the real work. And that first session, it's a world unto itself. What really happens behind that closed door? What are you supposed to say? What are they going to ask? That's where we're going next. You take a deep breath. You're in the waiting room. The chair is probably a little uncomfortable. The art on the wall is aggressively neutral. You're scrolling on your phone, but you're not actually reading anything. Every time the door to the hallway opens, your heart does a little jump. Is it them? Is it time? This feeling, this mix of hope and dread, is completely 100% normal. It's the first day of school, a blind date, and a job interview all rolled into one. Then the door opens and someone calls your name. You walk in. The room is designed to be calming. There's a couch, a comfortable-looking chair, maybe a box of tissues strategically placed on a side table. That box of tissues can feel like a dare, like a prophecy. Ignore it for now. You're not expected to have a breakdown in the first 5 minutes. The first thing that will likely happen isn't a deep, probing question about your childhood trauma. It's paperwork. I know. It sounds anticlimactic, but this part is actually one of the most important moments in your entire therapeutic journey. This is the intake process. You'll get a clipboard with forms about your personal history, your family medical history, and a list of symptoms you might be experiencing. But the most critical document you'll sign is the one about confidentiality and its limits. This is where your therapist explains HIPAA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. In plain English, this is their sworn vow of secrecy. What you say in this room stays in this room. They can't tell your boss, your partner, your parents. They can't even confirm you're their client if someone calls and asks. This office is a vault. However, there are crucial exceptions, and any good therapist will explain them clearly. They are legally and ethically obligated to break confidentiality if you are in imminent danger to yourself, if you are in imminent danger to someone else, or if there is suspected child or elder abuse. This isn't to scare you. It's to protect you and others. It's a safety net, not a trap. Understanding this framework from the very beginning builds the foundation of trust you need to actually open up. Once the paperwork is done, they'll sit down, make eye contact, and then it comes. The question. The one that echoes in 1,000 movies and TV shows. So what brings you in today? And your mind goes completely blank. Suddenly, the swirling chaos of emotions and problems that led you here solidifies into an unmovable, unspeakable block. Where do you even begin? Do you start with the fight you had this morning? The anxiety you've had since you were 7? The weird dream you had last night? Let me give you a secret. There is no right answer. The therapist isn't grading you. This question is just an invitation. You can answer it any way you want. You could try the chronological approach. Well, I guess it started back in college when. You could try the chief complaint approach. The main thing is, I've been having panic attacks every day for the past 2 weeks. Or you can be completely honest and say, I honestly don't even know where to start. I just know that I feel terrible. All of these are perfect starting points. Your only job in the first session is to show up. Your therapist's job is to help you unpack. While you're talking, what are they doing? They're not sitting there judging your life choices. They are listening on multiple levels. They're listening to the story you're telling, but they're also listening for themes, for patterns, for the things you're not saying. They're observing your body language, your tone of voice. They're building a mental map of your world. They're gathering a baseline. They need to know what your normal looks like so they can help you get to a healthier place. This initial session is a data gathering mission for them. They'll ask you a lot of questions that might seem unrelated. They'll ask about your sleep, your diet, your exercise habits. Do you drink alcohol or use other substances? What are your relationships like with your family, your friends? What do you do for work? Do you enjoy it? These aren't random questions. They're trying to understand the entire ecosystem of your life, because mental health isn't isolated. It's connected to everything: your physical health, your social support, your daily stressors. They're not being nosy, they're being thorough. Now, here's the part that most people miss. This first session is not just about them assessing you. It is just as much about you assessing them. You are the consumer. You are hiring someone for a very important job. You have every right, and in fact a responsibility, to interview them. It can feel intimidating, but asking questions shows that you're an engaged and active participant in your own healing. So what should you ask? Here are a few essential questions to have in your back pocket. First, what is your therapeutic approach or philosophy? Do they use cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT? Are they psychodynamic? Do they use a trauma-informed approach? You don't need to be an expert on these terms. We'll cover them in the next part. But their answer will tell you a lot about how they work. Do they focus on practical skills and changing thought patterns? Or do they focus on exploring past experiences? Second, ask, have you worked with people who have issues similar to mine? You don't need to find a therapist who is your identical twin, but knowing they have experience with anxiety or grief or relationship issues or whatever you're bringing in can be incredibly reassuring. Third, a powerful practical question. What would a typical session with you look like? This demystifies the process. Will you be doing worksheets? Will you be talking the whole time? Will they be giving you direct advice or guiding you to your own conclusions? And finally, perhaps the most important question of all. How will we know if this is working? How do we measure progress? A good therapist won't promise a cure, but they should be able to talk about setting goals and tracking progress. The answer might be about reducing the number of panic attacks, or feeling more confident at work, or being able to set boundaries with your family. This shows they're focused on results, not just endless talking. Remember, the goal of the first session isn't to solve your problems. It's not to have a massive tear-filled breakthrough. The goal is to see if you can build an alliance with this person. Do you feel heard? Do you feel respected? Do you feel like you could eventually trust this person with your story? It's all about the click. Sometimes you know right away, and sometimes it takes a few sessions. If you walk out of that first meeting feeling like you were judged, dismissed, or just not understood, it is perfectly okay to not go back and to try someone else. You haven't failed. You've just gathered important data. When you leave that first session, you will likely feel exhausted. You've just spent an hour talking about deeply personal things with a stranger. It's emotionally draining. You might also feel a little raw, like a nerve that's been exposed. This is often called a therapy hangover, and it's a sign that you did real work. But alongside that exhaustion, you might also feel something else. A tiny flicker of hope. The feeling that you're no longer carrying this weight all by yourself. You've survived the first session. You found someone you might click with. But what are you actually doing in that room week after week? Are you just talking? Or is there a method to the madness? We're about to decode the secret languages of therapy: CBT, DBT, EMDR. What do those letters even mean, and which one is right for you? It's time to look under the hood of the therapeutic engine. So let's pull back the curtain. When you sit in that chair for the first time, what you're really doing is stepping into a specific framework, a philosophy of change. And the most common one you'll encounter, the bedrock of modern therapy for many, is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Think of your brain as the world's most powerful, and sometimes most frustrating, computer. It's running an operating system that's been programmed since the day you were born. CBT works on a simple, profound principle. Your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all interconnected. It's a triangle. A thought triggers a feeling, which then drives a behavior. For example, you get an invitation to a party. The automatic thought pops up: I'm going to be so awkward. No one will want to talk to me. That thought creates a feeling: anxiety, dread. And that feeling drives a behavior: you decline the invitation and stay home. The cycle repeats, and the belief that you're awkward becomes stronger. CBT is like learning to be your own mental software engineer. A CBT therapist doesn't just listen. They give you a toolkit to identify those automatic, often negative thought patterns, the buggy code in your system. They're called cognitive distortions. Things like black and white thinking, where everything is either perfect or a total failure, or catastrophizing, where you expect the absolute worst outcome from any situation. With your therapist, you become a detective of your own mind. You learn to catch a negative thought, put it on trial, and examine the evidence. Is it 100% true that no one will talk to you? Have you ever been to a party where you had at least one decent conversation? By challenging the thought, you change the code. The new thought might be: I feel anxious about the party, but I can probably find 1 or 2 people to talk to. It might be okay. That new thought creates a different feeling. Maybe less dread, a little hope. And that feeling can lead to a new behavior: you go to the party. CBT is practical, it's goal-oriented, and it gives you concrete skills to use for the rest of your life. It's about rewriting the script your mind plays on a loop. But what if the problem isn't just buggy code? What if the whole system feels like it's on fire? What if your emotions are so intense, so overwhelming, that just challenging a thought feels like trying to put out a forest fire with a water pistol? This is where a different powerful approach comes in: dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. DBT has a fascinating and deeply personal origin story. It was developed by Dr. Marsha Linehan, a psychologist who late in her career revealed that she had her own severe struggles with mental illness as a young woman, including self-harm and hospitalization. She essentially created the therapy that she herself needed to survive. She found that CBT alone wasn't enough for people with profound emotional dysregulation. They needed something more. They needed validation before they could work on change. And that's the core of DBT, the dialectic. It's the idea that two seemingly opposite things can be true at once. The central dialectic is acceptance and change. I accept myself and my emotions exactly as they are in this moment, and I am committed to changing my behaviors to build a better life. It's not one or the other, it's both. DBT is less like debugging a single program and more like a comprehensive skills-based curriculum for your entire emotional operating system. It's typically taught in 4 modules. First, mindfulness. Learning to be present in the moment without judgment, so you can observe your emotions without being consumed by them. Second, distress tolerance. These are crisis survival skills. What do you do when you're in a 10 out of 10 emotional crisis and feel the urge to do something destructive? DBT gives you concrete techniques to get through the moment without making it worse. Third, emotion regulation. This is the long-term work of understanding your emotions, reducing your vulnerability to them, and learning to change them when you can. And fourth, interpersonal effectiveness. How to build healthy relationships, ask for what you need, and say no, all while maintaining self-respect. DBT is a powerhouse for people who feel like their emotions rule their lives. It's an incredibly validating and empowering framework that says, your pain is real, and here are the tools to build a life worth living. Now let's talk about the third set of letters, EMDR. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. This one can sound a little strange, a little mysterious, but its impact on treating trauma is nothing short of revolutionary. Imagine your brain is a highly efficient filing system. Every night when you sleep, it takes the experiences of the day and files them away as memories. But when something traumatic happens, a car accident, a violent event, a profound loss, the system gets overloaded. The memory doesn't get filed correctly. Gets stuck. It's like a corrupted file on your computer that keeps popping up at random, bringing with it all the original sights, sounds, feelings, and body sensations of the event. That's a flashback. That's a trigger. The trauma isn't in the past. It feels like it's happening right now. EMDR is a specialized therapy designed to help the brain reprocess these stuck memories. It works on the theory of bilateral stimulation. During a session, a therapist will guide you to focus on the traumatic memory while simultaneously engaging in a side-to-side stimulus, most commonly by following the therapist's fingers with your eyes, but it can also be done with tapping or sounds. Now, this isn't hypnosis. You are fully awake and in control. The bilateral stimulation seems to activate the brain's information processing system, much like what happens during REM sleep. It allows the brain to finally digest the traumatic memory, to take it out of that stuck state and file it away properly in your long-term memory. The goal of EMDR is not to make you forget what happened. It's to remove the intense emotional charge. After successful EMDR, you can still recall the event, but it no longer triggers that gut-wrenching fight-or-flight response. The memory becomes just that, a memory. It's a part of your story, but it's no longer the entire story that hijacks your present. It's an incredibly targeted approach for anyone who feels haunted by their past. So CBT, DBT, EMDR. How do you know which one is for you? Think of it this way. If you're struggling with specific patterns of thinking and anxiety that are holding you back, CBT might be your practical, structured toolkit. If you're drowning in overwhelming emotions and destructive behaviors, DBT could be the comprehensive life skills course that teaches you how to swim. And if you're trapped by a past event, if a specific trauma is casting a long shadow over your life, EMDR might be the specialized procedure you need to finally put it to rest. Of course, it's not always that clear-cut. Many therapists are eclectic, meaning they borrow from different approaches. A therapist might use CBT techniques to challenge thoughts while also teaching you DBT skills for distress tolerance. The point isn't for you to diagnose yourself. The point is for you to be an informed consumer. Knowing this language empowers you. It allows you to search for a therapist who specializes in what you think you need. It allows you to ask in that first consultation, what is your therapeutic approach? Do you have experience with trauma-informed care? Do you practice EMDR? You now understand the difference between a wrench, a hammer, and a drill. You know what the tools are for. But knowing what the tools do is one thing. Finding the skilled, trustworthy craftsperson who knows how to use them is a whole other challenge. How do you find them? Where do you look? And what do you do when you finally get the courage to make the call, only to be met with a voicemail saying, "I'm sorry, my practice is full"? The search for the right therapist can feel like a full-time job in itself. And that's exactly where we're going next. So what do? What happens when the system feels like a maze of closed doors and not accepting new patients' messages? It's a moment of profound vulnerability. You've done the hard work of admitting you need help, and the world seems to say, sorry, we're full. This is where most people give up. But you're not going to, because what we're about to do is switch from hoping for a lucky break to executing a strategic plan. Finding a therapist isn't like finding a doctor for a sore throat. It's more like trying to find a key business partner for the most important project of your life. You. And that requires a strategy. First, let's reframe the problem. It's not just you. The phrase therapist shortage gets thrown around a lot, but it's more complicated than that. It's often a shortage of therapists who take your specific insurance, who specialize in your specific needs, and who have openings that align with your schedule. It's a logistical bottleneck, and you can learn to navigate it. Your first strategic move is to stop thinking of this as a one-by-one search. Hunting for one therapist, calling, waiting for a callback, getting rejected, and then starting over is an emotional roller coaster designed for burnout. Instead, you are going to become a project manager. Your project is Operation Find Support. Start by creating a list, not of 2 or 3 names. I want you to aim for a list of at least 15 to 20 potential therapists. Yes, 15 to 20. This isn't overkill. It's a statistical necessity. Think of it like applying for a job. You don't send out one resume and wait by the phone. You send out dozens. Where do you find these names? We mentioned the big online directories like Psychology Today, but let's go deeper. Use the Find a Psychologist tool on the American Psychological Association website. Check directories specific to your identity or needs. There's Therapy for Black Girls, the National Queer and Trans Therapists of Color Network, the Inclusive Therapist Directory. These specialized platforms often connect you with clinicians who have a deeper, lived understanding of your experiences. Don't forget to ask your primary care doctor for a referral list. They often have established networks. Once you have your long list, your next move is to deploy a tool that will save you immense emotional energy. The initial contact email. Phone calls can be draining. You might catch someone at a bad time, you have to perform your vulnerability over and over, and you're often met with voicemail. An email is different. It's efficient, it's trackable, and it allows you to get straight to the point without emotional preamble. Here's a template you can adapt. Keep it short, professional, and clear. The subject line should be, New Client Inquiry. In the body, write something like this: Hello, Dr. Nim. I found your profile on platform, and am seeking therapy for, briefly, one sentence, e.g., anxiety and life transitions. I am writing to inquire if you are currently accepting new clients. I have your insurance provider insurance. If you are accepting new clients, could you please let me know your availability for a brief consultation call and your session fee? Thank you for your time. That's it. It's 4 key questions in a concise package. Are you available? Do you take my insurance? What's the cost? Can we talk? Copy, paste, and send this email to every single person on your list. Now, instead of anxiously waiting by the phone for one person, you've cast a wide net. You've turned a passive, hope-based process into an active data-gathering mission. As the replies trickle in, you'll start sorting them into 3 folders in your inbox: yes, no, and waitlist. The no folder is easy. Thank them, delete, move on. No emotional attachment. The yes folder is gold. These are the people you schedule consultation calls with. But what about that 3rd folder, the waitlist folder? Do not view this as a rejection. A waitlist is an asset. Get on every single one you're offered. People's lives change. A therapist's client might move, graduate from therapy, or change their schedule, opening up a spot. When you get on a waitlist, ask 2 clarifying questions. What is the approximate wait time? And is it possible to be contacted if an unexpected opening occurs sooner? This puts you on their radar. Being on 5 waitlists while you continue your search is infinitely better than being on none. Now, what if this process still yields nothing? What if you're in a therapy desert? Or your insurance network is incredibly narrow? This is when we pivot to strategy 2. Expanding the definition of help. The idea of a weekly, one-on-one session in a cozy office is the cultural ideal, but it is not the only path to healing. Let's look at the powerful, often overlooked alternatives. First, consider group therapy. For many of us, the immediate reaction is, no way, I can't talk about my problems in front of strangers. But I want you to challenge that assumption. Group therapy is one of the most potent tools against the shame and isolation that often fuel mental health struggles. The moment you share something you believe is uniquely broken about you, and someone across the circle nods and says, "I feel that too," is transformative. It breaks the illusion that you are alone in your struggle. It's also significantly more affordable than individual therapy. Second, look into university psychology training clinics. Nearly every major university with a psychology or social work graduate program has a community clinic. Here, you receive therapy from doctoral or master's students who are in the final stages of their training. And before you think this is student help, understand this. Every session is supervised by a seasoned, licensed PhD-level psychologist. You're essentially getting two minds working on your case for the price of one. The care is often cutting-edge, based on the latest research, and offered on a sliding scale, sometimes for as little as $5 or $10 a session. Third, there are community mental health centers, or CMHCs. These are state-funded or federally funded centers designed to be a safety net. They often serve individuals on Medicaid or with no insurance, and typically specialize in more severe mental illness, but many also offer general counseling services. The process can be bureaucratic and waits can be long, but they provide comprehensive care that might include therapy, medication management, and case management all under one roof. Finally, we have to talk about the rise of telehealth platforms like BetterHelp or Talkspace. They offer incredible convenience and can be a vital bridge when you're on a waitlist for a local provider. The ability to connect with a therapist from your own home is a game changer. However, it's important to go in with open eyes. The matching process can sometimes feel like a lottery, and you might not get a therapist who is licensed in your specific state, which can have implications for certain types of care. Use these platforms as a tool in your arsenal, a potential source of immediate support, but don't let it be the only tool you use. The ultimate mindset shift here is moving from, "I need to find one perfect therapist to save me," to, "I need to build my mental health support team." A therapist is a critical player on that team, a coach, a strategist, but they aren't the entire team. Your team might include a support group that meets on Zoom every Tuesday. It might include a psychiatrist or a primary care doctor who manages your medication. It might include a peer support specialist, someone with lived experience who is trained to help others. It includes your own practices, mindfulness, exercise, journaling. When you see it this way, the pressure comes off. The search for a therapist is no longer a desperate, all-or-nothing quest. It's simply the process of hiring a key professional for your team. You have agency, you have a strategy, you have options. And when you do get those emails back, the ones in the yes folder, and you schedule those first consultation calls, that's when the game truly begins. Because finding someone with an opening is just step one. Step two is figuring out if they're the right person. That first call, that therapist interview, is one of the most important conversations you can have. And there's a science to it. There are specific questions to ask, subtle red flags to watch for, and a way to listen to your gut that will tell you everything you need to know. And that's exactly what we're breaking down next. Okay, think of this first conversation not as an interview where you're trying to get the job, but as an audition where you are the casting director. You are looking for the right person to play a key supporting role in your life. Most therapists offer a free 15-minute consultation call, and this is your golden opportunity. Do not skip this step. Before you even dial the number, take 10 minutes to prepare. Grab a notebook and write down 3 things. First, what is your number one goal for therapy right now? Be specific. It's not just, "I want to feel less anxious." It's, "I want to stop having panic attacks in the grocery store." Or, "I want to learn how to set boundaries with my family without feeling guilty." Having a clear goal helps you gauge if their expertise aligns with your needs. Second, what are your non-negotiables? This could be about identity. "I need a therapist who is affirming of my LGBTQ+ identity." Or, "I need someone who understands my cultural background." It could be logistical. "I can only do virtual sessions on Tuesdays," or "my absolute maximum budget is X dollars per session." And third, write down your questions. This is where we get strategic. Don't just ask, "Do you take my insurance?" Start with the practical, but then go deeper. Let's break down the essential questions into 3 categories: the logistics, the approach, and the relationship. For logistics, you need to be crystal clear. Ask, "Are you in network with my specific insurance plan?" Don't just name the company, give them the exact plan name. Follow up with, "What is your self-pay rate if I'm not covered? And do you offer a sliding scale or any lower cost options?" Ask about their cancellation policy. Is it 24 hours? 48 hours? What's the fee? These questions prevent nasty financial surprises down the line. Next, the approach. This is about how they do therapy. You can start by asking, what is your primary therapeutic modality or approach? They might say things like CBT, DBT, psychodynamic, or person-centered. If they use a term you don't understand, say this. Could you explain what that means in simple terms and how it might apply to someone with my goals? A good therapist will be happy to translate the jargon. A great follow-up is, what does a typical session with you look like? Are you more structured with worksheets and homework? Or are you more of a conversational, exploratory therapist? There's no right answer here, only what's right for you. Some people thrive with structure. Others need the freedom to just talk. Finally, ask them directly. Based on what I've told you about my goals, how would you imagine us working together? This question forces them to apply their theory to your reality. The third category, the relationship, is arguably the most important. Research consistently shows that the single biggest predictor of successful therapy is the quality of the therapeutic alliance, the bond between you and your therapist. Ask them, how would you describe your style as a therapist? Are you more direct and challenging, or more gentle and validating? Again, think about what you need. Do you need a coach who will push you, or a safe space where you can feel unconditionally supported? You can also ask, how do you incorporate feedback from clients? If I felt a session wasn't working for me, how would we handle that? Their answer will tell you everything about their ego and their ability to collaborate. Now, while you're asking these questions, you need to have your radar on, listening not just to what they say but how they say it. This is where we talk about the red flags. These are the subtle and not so subtle signs that this is not the right person for you. Red flag number 1. They make guarantees. If a therapist says, I can definitely fix your anxiety in 10 sessions, hang up the phone. Mental health is complex. There are no guarantees. A good therapist talks about collaboration, progress, and possibilities, not certainties and cures. Red flag number 2. They overshare. This is your time, not theirs. If the therapist spends more than a minute talking about their own divorce, their own kids, or their own problems, that's a massive boundary issue. A small, purposeful self-disclosure can sometimes build rapport, but if it feels like you're comforting them, that's a problem. Red flag number 3. They're dismissive or invalidating. If you share a fear and they say, oh, that's nothing to worry about, or you describe a painful experience and they rush you along, they are not creating a safe space. You should feel heard, understood, and taken seriously, even in a brief consultation. Red flag number 4. A lack of professionalism. Do they show up late for the call? Do they seem distracted, like they're checking emails? Are they vague about their fees or policies? These small things often point to bigger organizational problems that will become major frustrations later on. And biggest red flag of all, any form of judgment. If you mention your sexuality, your relationship choices, your spiritual beliefs, or your past, and you hear even a hint of a condescending or judgmental tone in their voice, that's it. End of audition. Therapy is the one place on earth you should be able to be your complete, unfiltered self without fear of judgment. After you've gone through your questions and scanned for red flags, the final step is the most crucial. It's the gut check. After you hang up the phone, just sit for a minute. Close your eyes. How does your body feel? Do you feel a sense of tension or a sense of relief? Do you feel more hopeful or more anxious than when you started? Finding a therapist is a lot like trying on shoes. You can read all the reviews, you can see that they're made of high-quality materials, and they can be the exact right size on paper. But when you put them on, you know instantly. They either pinch and rub in all the wrong places, or they feel like they were made just for you. Your intuition, that gut feeling, is data. It's your nervous system telling you whether it perceives this person as a threat or as a source of safety. Don't ignore it. You might talk to a therapist who is perfectly qualified, says all the right things, and checks all the boxes, but something just feels off. You don't need to justify it. It's enough for it to not feel right. And this brings us to a vital truth. It is perfectly okay to break up with your therapist. You can do a consultation and decide not to move forward. You can even go to 2, 3, or 5 sessions and realize it's not the right fit. This is not a failure on your part. It is not an awkward inconvenience. It is a healthy and empowered part of the process. You can simply send an email saying, "Thank you for your time, but I've decided to go in a different direction." You don't owe them a lengthy explanation. This process of finding the right person can feel exhausting. You might have several of these calls. But I promise you, the work you put in on the front end to find the right fit will pay off 1,000 times over. Finding someone you trust, who gets you, and who is skilled in the right ways is the foundation upon which all healing is built. Change is everything. But once you've found that person, once you've had that first session and feel that spark of hope, the real journey begins. The work isn't over. It's just starting. So how do you transform that potential into real lasting change? How do you show up to your sessions in a way that maximizes every single minute and every single dollar you're investing in yourself? Because there is an art to being a good client, to being an active participant in your own rescue. And mastering that art is the final piece of this entire puzzle. So what does it look like to be an active participant in your own rescue? Starts with a radical shift in perspective. You are not walking into therapy as a broken object to be fixed. You are walking in as the CEO of your own well-being, and you are hiring a highly skilled consultant to help you achieve your company's, your life's, most important objectives. The therapist works for you. The session is your time, your investment. And your first job as CEO is to provide your new consultant with the most accurate data possible. This means embracing radical candor. Think of it like this. If you take your car to a mechanic because it's making a strange noise, but you're too embarrassed to mention that you've been driving it with the oil light on for 6 months, you're not just wasting the mechanic's time, you're guaranteeing you won't get the right fix. You're paying for an expert opinion based on incomplete or false information. Therapy is exactly the same. The thoughts you're most ashamed of, the behaviors you can't stand, the secrets you've never told anyone. That's not the baggage you hide from your therapist. That is the reason you are there. That is the smoking engine. Therapists are trained for this. They have navigated the darkest corners of the human psyche. The thing you're terrified to say? They've likely heard a version of it before. And their job isn't to judge you. It's to understand the mechanics of your mind and help you repair what's broken. Honesty isn't a moral test in therapy. It's a strategic tool. The more honest you are, the faster you get results. Your second job is to prepare for your meetings. You wouldn't walk into a critical business meeting without an agenda, so why would you do it for the most important meeting of your week? This doesn't have to be complicated. 5 minutes before your session, sit down and ask yourself, what was the most challenging moment for me this week? What was a moment I felt proud of? What's the one feeling or situation that keeps looping in my head? Jot down a few notes. This simple act transforms you from a passive passenger to an active driver. It ensures you're not just spending the first 15 minutes trying to remember what happened last Tuesday. It focuses the session on what truly matters, maximizing every single dollar and minute you're investing. It sends a clear signal to your therapist, and more importantly to yourself, that you are taking this work seriously. Third, you must co-create the roadmap. One of the biggest mistakes people make is having vague goals. I just want to be happy is not a goal, it's a wish. A good therapist will help you refine this, but you can supercharge the process by thinking about it beforehand. What would happy actually look like in your life? Maybe it's, I want to be able to set a boundary with my mother without feeling guilty for 3 days. Or, I want to get through a work presentation without my heart pounding out of my chest. Or, I want to reduce the number of nights I numb out with alcohol from 5 to 1. Those are tangible, measurable goals. That's a destination you can plug into the GPS. Working with your therapist to define these specific outcomes makes your progress visible. It allows you both to see what's working and what isn't, and to celebrate the wins along the way, which is crucial for building momentum. This leads to the fourth and perhaps most difficult art to master: giving feedback. Your therapist is not a mind reader. If a technique they suggest feels off, if their line of questioning feels unproductive, or if you feel misunderstood, you have to say something. I know this is hard. Many of us go to therapy precisely because we struggle with conflict or people-pleasing. But your silence in that room is the most expensive thing you own. Voicing your concern is not an insult. It is invaluable data. Saying, when you suggested I try positive affirmations, it actually made me feel worse because it felt like I was lying to myself, is one of the most therapeutic things you can do. It deepens the trust, it allows the therapist to adjust their approach, and it's a real-time exercise in the very self-advocacy you're there to learn. A good therapist will welcome this feedback. If they get defensive, that's a massive red flag, and it's a sign that they might not be the right consultant for you. Finally, and most critically, you have to do the work between sessions. The therapy room is the strategy room. It's the film study. It's the pre-game huddle. But the real game is played out there, in the messy, unpredictable arena of your life. The 50 minutes you spend with your therapist is maybe 1% of your week. The other 99% is where the change happens. When your therapist suggests a journaling prompt, do it. When they recommend a breathing exercise to use during a moment of panic, practice it even when you're not panicking so the muscle memory is there when you are. When you work together on a new way to phrase a difficult conversation, you have to actually go out and have that conversation. The therapy session is where you draw up the plays. The rest of your life is where you run them. The more you practice, the more you apply the insights, the faster you will transform your life. The progress you make is directly proportional to the effort you put in outside that room. And that's it. That's the final piece. We've journeyed through this entire labyrinthine system together. From that first quiet admission that something needs to change, to the daunting search for help, the frustrating maze of insurance, the delicate process of finding the right person, and now to understanding how to show up and do the work. It's a lot. Can feel overwhelming. The system is flawed. It is difficult. It asks too much of people who are already caring so much. But I want you to hold on to this one final truth. This entire journey, this whole complicated, frustrating, beautiful process, it's not about finding someone to save you. It's about realizing you are the one you've been waiting for. It's about learning how to save yourself. A therapist is a guide, a teacher, a co-pilot who can see the storm clouds on the radar that you can't. They can give you the map, teach you how to read the instruments, and remind you how to fly. But you are the pilot. You have been all along. The courage it took for you to even seek out this information, to watch this series, to consider a different future for yourself, that is immense. That is the spark. Everything else is just learning how to tend to that fire. Learning to advocate for yourself, to be honest with yourself, to invest in yourself. These aren't just skills for therapy. These are the skills for life. This is the work of becoming whole. So please take that next step. Whatever it is, make the call, send the email, do the 5-minute journal before your next session. Give your therapist that piece of feedback you've been holding back. You are worth the effort. Your peace is worth the fight. Your future self, the one who is calmer, stronger, and freer than you can currently imagine, is looking back at you right now, begging you not to give up. Don't leave them waiting.